Hey, Dennis here. I want to welcome you back to the channel, and if you're new here, I invite you to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. And some of you saw my Tuesday drive video from yesterday, and today is obviously Wednesday since it's the next day. I did say yesterday. Yeah, so it's definitely Wednesday. Maybe it's a Wednesday that feels like a Monday. Well, that would be weird. But anyway, I'm going to attempt on Wednesdays to do these teaching videos, so you can look forward to those showing up on Thursday, and I'm going to try and hold this schedule, see if I can't make this work, and hopefully I can keep rolling. Just to give you a glimpse of kind of where I'm headed is tonight I'm going to talk about last time we painted, actually we did this, and we painted just kind of a real simple landscape, and these trees receding here are just sort of like big shapes. So tonight what I want to talk about is how you actually can take those shapes and actually make them look like trees. So there are just a few tips I want to give you to help you with that. So if you're new here, what I'm really trying to do is give you some fundamentals of plein air, so that when you go out and we start painting outdoors, where I'm actually going to attempt to teach outdoors, you won't be so overwhelmed by what you see in front of you, because it gets I mean, you just see so much. Sometimes it's so difficult to actually hone in on, as a lot of people say, make an attempt at keeping the main thing. I mean, you see all these trees and trunks and sky and ground and grass, and it's overwhelming, and so sometimes it gets hard. So if I can get you to think in terms of, I'm going to paint that tree line that I see as a solid shape, and then tonight what we're going to actually do is I'm going to show you how I approach that, and then I actually go back and I cut into that and begin to shape it and form it into what appears to be a group of individual trees, rather than just a huge conglomerate of trees making a big shape. So anyway, I'll get set up for that, and we'll get this going. Alright, so we're going to kind of stick with the theme that we've been doing, something simple, and we don't want to get too complicated yet. So we'll just get and today what I think I'm going to do is we're going to kind of divide this into thirds, and I'll just start to introduce you to kind of some the theory of thirds and where to place. There are all kind of theories about where your focus point in your painting should be, kind of the central focal area. And for some reason I tend to gravitate to this area, sort of where these cross sections kind of are, and for the most part, this is just me, but I tend to hover right in here, and I kind of decide early on if I think I'm gonna have a really low horizon with a lot of sky, or if I'm gonna have a high horizon with a little bit of sky. And the terrain usually dictates that. Like if I'm looking up a hill, then it's always probably going to be a lot of ground and just a sliver of sky. If I'm looking down a hill, it might be just the opposite. It might just recede off into the distance and have a big sky, like Montana, maybe. Anyway, so I think what we'll do here is we'll just have maybe a lot of ground in the front, and we'll have a group of trees just sort of in this vicinity here, kind of in this middle ground. And then we'll have another one that sits kind of back in here, and then we'll actually have a little opening there, and then we'll have this one go back in here, and raise this one up, and we'll have this little group of trees right here, and we'll just let that kind of flow. And then this line is about where the horizon is, back in there, and there may just be a hint of some trees there. But anyway, it really doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you just have a couple tree lines that are positioned in different parts of space. This one's closer up, and these are further back. So that's really all we want to do at this point. And then I'll just quickly get kind of get a sky and some ground, and then we'll begin to work on these trees. Cool. All right, so this time, last time I went pretty orange. Okay, I would like to say that no flies were harmed in the making of this video, but that would just not be true. So, all right. So now let's get this sky here, and we're just going to use some cobalt and some white. Start there. Just a touch darker here. And this is just a cobalt hue, so maybe a little bit more. That'll work to start with. So let's lay that in here. Now, one thing about the sky is as you get closer to, well, the higher up in the sky you go. I mean, if you haven't observed this already yourself, next time you're out on a clear day, look at the horizon really closely, and then take a look at straight overhead from you, and you'll see how much darker the zenith is than the rest of the sky, especially down toward the horizon, where it tends to get very gray. Very greenish blue. So observe that if you can, and you'll really get a feel for how drastic those that changes. And you can take a photograph if you want, and just examine that, and that'll give you a feel for how dark that can be. Now, I'm painting a very flat color at the moment, which is not a problem, because I'm gonna go back into it here in a second. But alright, so that's good enough for now. I'm just gonna leave a little space there. Now, you might remember from one of the other videos that we talked about the order of value, and the sky being the lightest, and the ground, the flat plane, being second, verticals being third. If we had some slopes in here, slopes would actually be in between. They'd be a little bit darker in value than the ground, but definitely not as light as the ground. So it would go sky, flat plane, slopes, verticals would be the order of value there. So I think I'm going to mix kind of a greenish a green for this ground. I'm going to go into this, the same pool I was in before, and we're just going to touch a little blue into that, and we're going to kind of lay this in here, and we'll get more contrast in this very foreground than as we get back there, but that lays in there just fine. And then you know, there's so many horizontal strokes going through here. You know, you can just come through and pick some of these up, and I'm just using the side of the brush and adjusting them a little bit, and I'll do it with more paint maybe later and you can get a better feel for it, but just laying it on this thin is really not all that helpful. But anyway, so as we move back here, you see how I just laid the brush over and I just let some of that color that I had in there just come out? It just makes a nice effect. I just laid it down flat and just pulled it. And I'm just gonna leave those alone. Good luck with that. It's easy to talk about, it's not easy to do. I'm always guilty of that. I always want to get in here and sort of mix all the strokes that I just put down, which is terrible. But so now I'm just going to take some of my sky color and I'm going to let it kind of flow over into this ground color, and I'm just going to lay that in here because it's going to have a value change as well as a, and I'm just going to get more blue because it's reflecting back here a lot more of the sky. So just all the way back, we're just going to have that, and then I'm going to maybe get more blue and just lay that right on top, just like that. And that's where that just sort of disappears back there, where that very thin tree line is. Okay. And then just because I want to and I feel like I need to, I'm going to add a little bit of interest in this sky. So I'm going to go back into some of this blue, but then I'm just going to touch this Indian yellow and I'm going to pull that in here, and I'm going to just get a little more blue. So I want kind of this blue, green, turquoisey kind of a color, and I'm going to lay that right in here. That's pretty yellow, but that's okay. I'm gonna live with that. Yellow, I'd like it to be just a touch more blue. There we go. See what I mean? I just want to keep moving those strokes around, and it's a really bad habit. But I'm going to get that. And now I'm going to take a little bit of the titanium white, and I'm going to just touch the cobalt orange a little bit. And right back here on the very horizon, I'm going to add just a little bit of that. And one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually just kind of pull it into these trees a little bit and start to create a little more of a jagged shape to the top of them. So see how I just barely pulled that down in there, and just let that be, and then that'll give you just a hint of the sky's going in behind there. So I'm gonna stop there, and then maybe we'll just take some white and just barely give that maybe a touch of the yellow as well, and just for fun, we'll just lay in a little bit of white here. Now when you have this white laid in, you can actually go over top of that when you're getting more toward the zenith, and you can just darken this area up here just a little bit. Okay, sweet. All right, good enough for now. Okay, so now I'm just going to switch to a number 2 brush, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this blue that I just mixed, and one thing I can tell you about when sky is between the trees and stuff, it's always darker because you're looking through all of that, and if you get too light, it's going to want to come forward of the tree, and when you do it and you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean, and maybe I'll show you an example of that here in a second. So I just want to kind of define the shape of this a little bit just by pulling some of this blue in here, and you have to wipe this pretty frequently. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to just pull this in here, and I'm creating a little more of a shape there. And then these, there's some sky holes in here. And that's getting kind of green, but all I'm doing is just taking the blue sky color and I'm just pulling it down in here, and that might even have just a touch of the orange in it, because it's getting down close to that part of the sky, so it could be slightly lighter in value. But anyway, it's kind of funny, I'm kind of speaking softer as I go here. So we'll just add a few sky holes, and you don't want to go lower than here because it's a good possibility that these trees continue behind here. So you wouldn't want to put one here, or it might not read correctly. So, and you could actually put some of that green color, some of this in here if you wanted to, and then it might, that's not working out. I don't want to confuse you, so just forget about that. But we're going to leave it for now. Now here's an example of if I get this too light, if I get this too light and I want to put this sky hole in here, you see how that jumps in front of the tree? I hope you can see that, because now I'll go back with the darker blue. I wish you could see how I am working around my tripod here. And when I put that in there, now it sits back where it belongs, so it's not trying to jump through. And then I'll go back into the distance here, and I'm actually just going to kind of do the same thing back here. I'll pull some of these down just to alter the shape a little. Since I'm dealing with a lighter value, I can make that a little bit lighter without getting too light. And then we'll do the same just a little bit back here. We already kind of pulled a little bit back there, but maybe we'll just do a little bit more and soften that edge. All right. Now, we basically have, like this tree line here as an example. If you think about all of those trees growing together, what you end up with is brush and everything, ground and all is down in here. So this lower portion of these big shape tree groupings are actually darker than the rest. So we're going to want to go back into our tree there, our tree line, and we're going to want some darker colors that just kind of fall down in here by the ground. Maybe I'll get a little more blue in that. We just kind of want those to be down in this lower portion, because that's kind of where all this stuff's kind of gathering in there and everything. So, and I just kind of pick it up and move it around, and just so I don't end up with real consistency. I want it to be random like nature. So and I'll make a few verticals that are a little bit darker, but it doesn't really take too much. And then right down, I'm going to grab a little of this dark gray I had over here, this kind of greenish gray, just right down along here. You know, you can have some areas where it goes even one step darker, so, and then it'll really start to read correctly that way. And then I'll do a little bit of that in this foreground, and I'll take some of this little red, a little yellow, some blue, and we'll just lay some of these shapes down in here. I could use a lot more blue, so oh geez, where did I get that from? Let's try that again. Maybe it's a happy accident, I don't know. Those do happen a lot, so more blue and a touch of yellow to warm that up, maybe a little orange to make that gray, and then just put some of this down in here. And then we'll break up some of these straight lines just by bringing these out a little bit, and see how I kind of brought that one out and then back. And back here, you know, we can't do a whole lot, but just enough. And I can even just use a little bit of this color I have on the brush. Just need just enough for it to read, and then the same back here. Doesn't take a whole lot. Alright, so one more step, and then I think that'll be enough for tonight. And that is, we're going to take a small rigger, and I happen to have a really small one here. And for the foreground, I'm just going to take, and I'm going to mix a little more orange with this darker color over here. So I end up with kind of a gray, maybe a reddish gray. And what I do is I just pull the brush, I just pull it up. So I need a lot more blue in that so we can get that really dark. So we're just going to kind of pull a trunk up here. And just a couple branches going off. It doesn't require a whole lot to make this happen, so we've got quite a bit of paint on here already. So I'm always pulling the brush in the direction that the tree grows. So if I start it down here, I'm attempting to pull it up, and then maybe there's another tree here, and then we can define a little bit over here. And so we don't end up with evenly spaced trees and trees all going the same direction. We'll just drop another one right there, and we'll vary the, you know, this one stops here, this one goes a little further toward the ground, and just some always be thinking about variety. And so we'll that may have got a little thick in there, but it's okay. Just gonna wipe it out. Just pull a couple little branches in there, and then doesn't take a lot to indicate it. And then what we'll do is we'll take just a touch of titanium. We'll go back here and change a little bit smaller value there, and then we'll just come in here with a few. It won't take a lot, and I think we can go even just a touch lighter. And we'll just pull a couple of these verticals in here. All right. And of course, you know, where there's darks, there's lights. So in the foreground part here, we may have a tree that, you know, it's picking up some of the light over here. So let's drop a little bit of that in. And then we'll do just a little bit more. Just back here, we'll just pick up just a couple of these. And more just some little dark areas to maybe indicate that there's some verticals. Doesn't take much. And I think we'll go in here and just define this a little bit more. Alright, so, and the very last thing I do is I take a dry brush, and I'll just use something that's kind of worn out, maybe like this one right here, and I'm going to use it really dry. I'm going to get some of the green color that we had here in the foreground, and what I like to do is I just take this and I pull it in the direction the tree grows, and now you see I'm kind of working back over top of the blue, and all I'm doing is laying this down and just pulling it up and away. So we'll do that again over here. I'll just pull this one up a little bit, and some of that dry paint come right off of there, and just those edges can just, you know, soften right up and pull right out of there, and because you get toward the top of these trees, and you know, got so much sky color in them and everything that it doesn't really matter. So, and we'll repeat that with some of these lighter tones back here. We'll just pull some of these up just a little bit, and I'm just, again, I'm pushing up and pulling away from the canvas. And I'll just soften some of these edges, and it'll appear that way. That was too straight, so I'm just going to pull some ground in here so we can cut that up a little bit. Alright, so I think that's probably enough to completely saturate you for tonight. Alright, so I hope that was helpful for you, and as always, I really appreciate you hanging out with me and giving me some of your valuable time by watching my videos. And I hope that you know, that if you are not a plein air painter currently, that this might inspire you to give this a try, because it's just absolutely fantastic, and it will change your life if you try it. So grab some goods and follow along and practice this, and when you do get outdoors, I'm telling you, everything will happen so much quicker for you. So until next time, thanks for checking out my video, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you later.